If you're a player looking for cash for your cards, well, depending on the collection you have, there are a lot of people out there still willing to pay you a lot of money. Before you take just any offer from a store, there's some things to consider before getting rid of all your Magic cards. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thanks again for hanging out with me on my channel today. If you're new to the channel and you enjoyed today's content, don't forget, like and subscribe to the channel. I post up new content every single day of the week. I look forward to seeing your comments in the comments section, and every new subscriber is helping this channel get closer to 20,000 subscribers. So thanks again for everyone who's helping make this happen. When we're talking about value for your cards, and we've heard a lot lately about a lot of stores who do not want to pay you cash. I've heard it myself from a lot of the smaller stores that they want to give trade-in. They've been burned too many times, too many cards not worth money now, and they'd rather go with credit and then try to sell your cards, whenever they get a chance. But here's the thing. When I actually started looking around, when the Mox Man started investigating some larger cities, I started realizing a lot of the bigger stores are still paying, and they're paying well for these cards. Even face-to-face was paying well. Depending on what card you're trying to sell and the power level, the value of that card, how often it's being played, really did, of course, put a bit of a kink in how much that card might be worth. A Ledger Shredder might be $5 at one store, but it was $9 at another. If I tried to sell a Mox Amber in Toronto, I can get like 10 or 12 bucks. But if I try to send it to Fusion Gaming, I can get $25. There's a real discrepancy in which cards are needed where in the world and where there are shortages. Now with a card like Mox Amber, because I control such a large market share of that card, and I really do, I understand that when I sold off big chunks of my collection before Brothers War came out, that the value would decrease anywhere in my local vicinity where I started selling lots of these cards off. But further and further away, the value started to rise, and that's interesting for any player trying to buy cards or get these cards. You don't have to settle for the lowest price at your local LGS. Sure, it's great to support them and give them, some value that they can sell off, but at the same time, for yourself as a player who needs money, or maybe you need to liquidate, maybe you've heard the rumors that Magic's dying and you need to get as much value out of your hobby as you can look around and get a lot more value, depending again on the cards you're trying to sell. When I looked at some of the posts I've seen lately, when I talked to some people, some of the smaller stores I deal with, as well as some of the bigger stores, almost universally, the small stores want to give you credit. All the bigger stores are willing to give you cash because they have the ability to move those cards. Smaller LGSs have a much smaller blueprint and a thumbprint in the space, and they just can't move things the same way, so they got to give credit. But the bigger stores, who can go to every tournament, who can show up at all these events, can move these cards as players adjust their decks on any given day. Yes, you got to have good cards like Shoulder of the Apocalypse, cards that have a lot of value. You got to have Dockside Extortionist. You got to have a decent value to your card to begin with, but you can start collecting a top dollar. Now, take this conversation one step further. This is for Commander. This is for what we're talking about right now. But what happens if Wizards actually resurrects Standard? If it actually stands up on its own 2 feet? Because I noticed a lot of stores talking about starting Standard events. They were doing Pioneer for so long that now everything's going back to Standard. I even saw a couple store owners this weekend who were just kind of putting some Standard decks together based on what they had, just so they could play with some of the people in the store and kind of promote what was going on. This was a very interesting kind of change of pace that I wasn't expecting to see so quickly, and I was very interested to see. And then they started asking me if I'm going to play. Moxman, are you coming to play in this tournament tonight? I'm like, I do not have a Standard deck. I don't have one right now other than the stuff I play in Arena. And then it started making me think, should I build the deck that I used to play in Arena? Should I put my Urza, Meekstone, Mightstone together? And because I have the cards, I could put that deck together and I could go play. That was very interesting that my competitive juices started kind of flowing a little bit, where I actually thought about showing up. And if I'm one player thinking that, how many others might be diving in? And that's something Wizards of the Coast is hoping for, because that means opening more boxes. You need 4 of for stuff. It could be a whole different cash flow if they can resurrect it properly, but that'll be depending on a whole bunch of other factors that I don't want to mess around too much in the conversation today. I just want you guys to be aware that before you liquidate your cards, before you send things off and sell everything, look about where they're needed. Look about where you are. Look locally. Look globally. Take into account the shipping, the cost, and see if it's worth it to send it further away where the cards might be needed, where the market might be large enough and desirable enough that they're going to pay you a lot more money for your cards. It's really kind of fascinating to see how it was kind of working out just in the little regions I was looking at, smaller stores versus larger stores. And if Standard comes back around, any cards you have might start seeing a lot more play, which means you might actually see boxes getting opened again. Can you imagine if people actually want to play with more Shieldreds and there's not that many out there, and all of a sudden you start having to crack more boxes of Dominaria United just to get there? Go to the collector boxes, like some of these cards that have been on liquidation right now and super cheap to buy collector boxes and stuff might actually get opened. It's kind of a fascinating kind of conversation to have, thinking about how things could turn around so quickly for the value of cards just based on the fact you need 4 instead of 1. That kind of stuff got me. It got me thinking about where we could be a year from now, 2 years from now. Now, I'm not going to say, oh, the box prices are going to be resurrected and everyone's going to collect sealed again and, the reserve list is going to turn around. We're going to see new gains. Of course not. None of that stuff's happening. It takes a lot longer than that to move the market in MTG finance. It takes a lot more back-breaking effort by the company to secure the value of the cards for players really to believe in it again. But any player who wants to be competitive is going to buy those cards. They don't care if they go down. They want to own the card so they can play it. There are those people out there who are so competitive that they're going to buy those cards. They're going to buy Shieldred. They're going to buy the Vorinclex. They're going to buy Jataxis. They're going to get the cards they need. They're going to get the Ledger Shredder. They're going to work it out one way or the other because they realize that other players probably don't own these cards. And if they're the first ones, they're going to start wiping people out. They're going to start taking them out. Somebody who's only being semi-competitive, and they go and they build some fun standard deck with just whatever they have at home from packs they've cracked, and they show up at a night to play, and all of a sudden they go against a guy who's got the 4 Shieldred, he's got the restorations, he's bringing everything back and just destroying everyone. Well, he wins store credit, he wins some prizes, gets some cool cards, and it actually could start paying for itself. It's just one of those interesting avenue conversations where things can get turned around really quick depending on where you are and how people are playing the game. Are they playing casually for fun? Are they starting to get super competitive? We've all seen those players out there who do this kind of thing. It also depends on your pocketbook and how much you can afford to spend. Either way, I found it interesting that these cards could be bought and sold. There was those images I saw where people, places like 401 are still paying $300, $400 for dual lands if they're near mint. They're still buying them. Just nobody's turning them in. That's interesting. There's people out there who are trying to look for alpha and beta cards, but nobody's trading them in. So where are these cards? Why are they not being offered at the stores paying cash? If the store is offering cash, why are they not being traded in? I'll give you $220 for your beta icy manipulator. Why is nobody selling to the store? Okay, I'll pay you $1,000 for a chaos orb. Why is nobody selling to the store? Either they don't have near mint or they don't want to trade it away. Well, why would that be? Unless they believed it would have future value later. It's really fascinating to see how some people say the game is dying. But when you actually look at what's going on, and by the way, unofficially, and I don't know what I'm talking about, I have no clue, but the cash flow at some of these stores is still very liquid right now. Some of the bigger stores have actually done very well in the last couple of sets, and they actually have quite a lot of liquid cash, which they've been buying and selling cards that are hot right now. I'm not going to say which ones. I'm not going to say I have any proof to the knowledge of anything I know about. I know nothing. Nothing. It's a boomstick day. But imagine if the store has liquid cash, a bigger store, and they can just buy all kinds of stuff up, knowing they can flip it fast. That's what you have to be aware of, because there was a few people who say, oh, everything's going to zero, you might as well sell your collection. Well, who told you to sell that collection? Who are the people telling other people to sell? And why would you listen to them? Unless you really wanted to get out of the game. The worst thing players can do is sell a collection and have to come back to the game and rebuy stuff later. It's why it's better just to kind of shelve your stuff, because it's a hobby, it's a game, it's for fun. If the cards go up, great. Great if they go up. But at the same time, you don't know what's going to happen any more than the next person does. We all know Wizards are going to reprint all kinds of stuff, but you don't give away free value. Take a look around and see what your cards are worth. See what your collection is going to be worth by judging it based on what you see. Either way, it's great, man. Thanks a lot for hanging out, guys. Thanks for being here for this discussion. I want to know what you guys think in the comments section. Slam down some comments. Have you been looking at some of these buy and sell lists? Have you seen who's paying cash versus who's paying trade? Are you still getting out of the game? Or are you diving right back in? Are you thinking about standard? And yes, I hit the microphone. I apologize. I can't fix it now. I already smacked it. I know I used to hit the microphone all the time when I got these big hand gestures going, but we're over 10 minutes into the video. Nobody's watching at this point. Because I think there might be an actual shift. I don't think it's going to happen right away, but I think some people are thinking about it, and that's very interesting to me. Thanks a lot for hanging out, guys. Thanks for being here on the channel today. Looking forward to seeing your comments in the comment section, and don't forget, always bring a friend to Magic and have a great time, because this is an amazing game. What do we have here? The patrons? These are the patrons of the channel, the supporters who financially back everything I do. That's why all these videos are brought to you by my patrons and YouTube membership members. This is amazing. Patrons, you rock. Okay, we're here. We're here at the end. Hold on. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. I'm your host, MTG Moxman. This video has been brought to you by the patrons and supporters of this channel. The cinematic universe beyond, the things that we don't even want to talk about. It started occurring to me when I saw a guy this weekend, Saturday, selling some cards to a store. And the store was paying really low. 50 cents on the dollar. And he traded in some decent stuff. You know, there was some of the Unfinity lands, like the space ones and stuff. He was only getting like 14, 15 bucks for these cards. You know, was selling for 30, 40. All right, and I was like, okay. He wanted cash, but I watched it. I looked at it. Of course, I didn't say anything to anybody. I didn't say anything to the store owner. You know, he's got to make his money. But when I started looking the trade-in value elsewhere for some of these cards that went in, especially a couple of the reserve list cards, which I kind of had my mouth watering a bit, just a little bit. There may have been a couple of nice cards there that caught the Moxman's eye. But either way, no, there was no Sildevi excavations. Either way, it had me thinking about these buy and sell lists. If there were so many players leaving Magic, like we had this big glut of players leave. And those players left. Stores had cash crunch issues, trying to come up with the cash to pay for all this stuff. And they turned down collections. And so why is it now? A couple of stores I deal with that are bigger have no cash flow issue. They actually said they've made quite a bit of money selling and buying and selling and buying and selling and buying a whole bunch of these singles cards that they didn't crack boxes or anything. They just took the trade in and they would buy and sell it as cards became popular. They're paying a lot of attention. They're using those, whatever that program is that keeps your cards up to date. And they're making pretty good money. So when this collection came in, and I added it up at like basically $3,000, and he only got like $1,200 and change, okay, is what he ended up getting in cash. And the owner just basically went to the back room, came out, and paid the guy $1,200 and change. And I looked at all the cards, and I'm just, in my head, I'm going, oh, that's like a $300 card. There was a Mox Diamond there. I'm like, these are some really expensive cards. Really nice shape, too. And I'm just like, yeah. And then get this. Here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing. As he's doing this, some other person walks in from the back, and they're playing Commander. And he needed a couple of those cards. So he's like, oh, can you just like ring those up right away? Like, I'll buy them right now. He used store credit for one, and he spent like $220 for the other. And I sat there and was like, he only paid like $80 for that card. He just sold it for $220. Like, that's what I'm talking about. So when you're thinking about everyone who tells you to sell your collection, get out while you can, before you get out while you can, think about what you're doing. Think about how much value you're losing, because maybe you don't care and it's fine. You want to get something out of your hobby. But at the same time, if you ever think you're going to come back, that's why I never got rid of my cards. And it's why I still accumulate reserve list cards now. You guys saw my video yesterday, the last wall, the castle that's standing in defense of the reserve list that we're all manning and protecting. And I look at it and go, I'm glad I'm buying reserve list cards at these low prices. Like, it put a smile on my face. And that just made my day, realizing that it's not as bad as people hear. Nobody's here at the end of this video except for us, but it's not as bad as people think. And in some cases, depending on where you are, it's actually a really good market. You just got to look beyond your front door and see what's happening elsewhere. Either way, crazy times. Thanks a lot for hanging out, guys. Thanks for listening to me ramble jamble here at the end. I look forward to seeing your comments in the comment section. Don't forget, we have got to drop down something special, man. Let's put Deadite inside that comment section. That way I know that you're one of them. Have a great one, guys.